Hi everyone, and welcome to this short screencast on recovery for fitness transformations. My name is Matt McEwen. I'm a sports physio with 25 years experience from Parkside Sports Physio in Engadine. From sporting involvement as a physio, I've worked at the national level with Australian Institute of Sport cycling, road cycling, and Netball New South Wales state teams and National League netball teams on a grassroots level with rugby league, rugby union, soccer and netball teams. More recently with endurance athletes in multisport, runners, cyclists and triathletes. My sporting experience personally has included playing team sports as a kid and then branching out into things like cycling and triathlon up to Ironman level, trail running and over 35 soccer. My sporting experience isn't to show off, it's just because I've never been that great an athlete, but just to show that I've used these recovery techniques myself personally during my triathlon career, and I can speak with some experience of what worked anecdotally for me really well as drawing on scientific research to show us what we can use to help us recover during training. So I'm speaking to you because you're on the journey of a transformation. You made a commitment to your health, well-being, and fitness and your body composition. It'd be lovely if we could all make a change like we see Shrek to Hulk here, but often that's not possible. And it's often not possible because we get injured or sick. And so if we can do anything with this screencast, it's to give you some recovery tips that'll help you keep training, keep fit, and stay well so that you can keep on this journey. So recovery's come into vogue in the last 10, 15 years. We see lots of images of athletes sitting in ice baths after games, doing water runs. There's lots of different products, compression garments, inflatable boots, all sorts of stuff we can use to help our recovery. And our biggest level sort of capital investment from elite sporting teams and institutes of sport like the AIS here, building expensive recovery centres, spending millions of dollars. So on a practical level, the best sort of definition of recovery I could come up with was a restoration to a former or better condition. And really we want to focus on getting to a better condition. We want to be able to use our training to make us better. Either stronger, fitter, faster, leaner, bigger, whatever your aim is. So we're just going to go through some, some real quick science and one slide on the science behind training and recovery and show you why it's important that we're maximising our recovery to get the best benefits from our training. So looking at this slide, it's a little busy, but we'll just go through. On the horizontal line is your training status before training. So really that's your baseline strength, fitness, endurance. And then what happens here at this point, we put a training session on and we give the body a stimulus. And then from that, we get this negative effect down here, which is your soreness after training. You can't walk downstairs, can't lift your arms above your head. That's this valley down here, everything below the horizontal line. And then the body says, right, well, if this person's going to do this nasty stuff to me, I'm going to have to accommodate to that and adapt to it. So I'll make some changes and make the body better. And that's the super compensation part above here. And this is the real important part of getting better as an athlete. And so then the body accommodates and adapts. If we don't do another training session, then it'll eventually just revert back down to the baseline level. So what we do is we try and put our next training session on here, the peak of that compensation curve, and then this whole thing happens again, and we just zigzag upwards and keep getting better and better. So the important thing is to find that balance of intensity of training, frequency of training, and all the other stresses in our daily life so that we're getting the most out of our training and functioning as well as we can. So this slide just looks at that balance. So we've got stress on one side of the balance beam here, and on this side is our coping mechanisms. And so we've thought to have a finite capacity for coping. So stress can come in numerous different forms. The most sort of relevant one to us now is our sporting stress, so how much load we're putting on the body with our training. But there's numerous other sources of stress that are going to impact on our body. So all these different factors of our life can impact on your body's health and well-being, your immune system, and stress hormones. And so if stress is outweighing our coping mechanisms, then the balance is going to tip down the bottom. We're going to have negative effects and you'll feel stressed. And eventually your body will break down. If your coping mechanisms outweigh it, then you'll get growth and development, and that's what we want as an athlete. So the next part of the presentation will go through how we can improve these coping mechanisms through recovery techniques. So looking at some recovery techniques, I've broken them up into different segments. So we'll look at physical segments for the physical segment of recovery techniques first. So stretching. Scientific literature is a bit mixed on stretching in terms of it being able to improve performance or prevent injuries. What we do know is that stretching makes you feel more comfortable. It can reduce muscle soreness and tightness afterwards. So doing a short stretching technique when your muscles feel tight can help reduce tightness in all the soft tissues and make you feel less stiff. And that will help make you feel more likely to want to get up and go to work the next day, but also train again. You'll feel less sore and less tight. So using it sensibly, you can help to recover back to the normal level of muscle soreness. Using a foam roller, there is some research recently that shows that it can be as effective as stretching or more effective than stretching in improving mobility and flexibility in muscle groups without any negative side effects like loss of athletic performance or risk of injury. So the foam roller used well can be a useful tool to improve your flexibility and mobility. Active recovery is one of those ones that you'll see elite sporting teams doing. So their pool sessions the day after a game, sitting on the exercise bike during breaks in play or if they're off the field. Used in like a boot camp situation, doing a short cool down at the end is the best sort of technique. You don't really want to go and do another 20 minutes of active exercise and add more time to your session. So, you just use that as you see fit. So some passive techniques, using compression garments. So there's lots of different compression garments out there, tights, tops, socks, calf sleeves, and they can be very useful techniques to use. So the research is a bit mixed as well with these, but generally they show the main thing that compression garments can do is reduce soreness. They can improve your perception of recovery, so your muscles feel more recovered, feel less tight and sore. And they can also show some benefits for repeat sporting performance. So if you've got another training session that afternoon, or you've got a game of sport on that night after a training session in the morning, wearing compression garments can help with your actual performance levels with repeated exercise. From a practical point of view, I would exercise some caution in wearing long black compression garments during hot conditions, just from a thermoregulation and heat stress point of view. Best benefit you get out of those long garments is to wear them afterwards. So wear them after your training session, under your work clothes if you can get away with it, or even if it's an afternoon evening training session, wear your long compression tights to bed as your pajamas if the weather conditions and that sort of thing permit you to. And the other option that you've got is wearing, if you've got lower leg, calf, Achilles problems or soreness, wearing compression socks or those calf sleeves while you're doing high impact exercise like running can be quite useful, and I've found that myself personally to work very well for long runs. So yeah, compression tights, compression garments are very worthwhile to look into. Massage is another passive treatment that we can use, and it's really good for relaxation. It shows good effect on stress, good effect on relaxation levels, and also helping with muscle soreness. Work with your massage therapist to guide them about how hard you want your massage so you don't go out of there sorer than when you went in. And it's also useful to help pick up tight areas that could be a problem further down the track. So massage, very worthwhile, and I would increase the amount of massage you're getting during higher levels of load. So training more frequent massage. A lot of these techniques are helping with this perception of recovery, which is a form of placebo effect. It's nothing we can physically measure, but it's also very useful because you're going to feel more like training the next day. You're going to get more training done because you won't be sitting at home saying, I'm too sore to train. So it's really worthwhile to get you out the door even. So sleep is one of the really, really important recovery techniques that you can use, and we sort of have this sort of attitude that we try and get by on the least amount of sleep possible, go, using caffeine, this molecule here, to keep us functioning. I'm very guilty of that myself. So 4-hourly caffeine fix to try and keep me sane and keep me going, but that comes at a cost. And so we know that getting adequate sleep is super important for athletic performance. We know that if you sleep less than 8 hours a night, you almost double the risk of getting an injury. And if you sleep less than 5 hours a night, you're 5 times almost as likely to get a cold or a virus. So that stuff's common sense. The more you sleep, the less fatigued you are, the better your immune system functions, the less likely you are to get sick and injured. So especially as you're increasing your activity levels during your transformation or sort of journey, then it's really important you're making sure you're getting adequate sleep and even increasing your amount of sleep. In today's society, everything's go, go, go. We've always got something on, never really get a chance to sit down and relax and just do nothing. And some of these recuperative techniques, while they might seem a bit out there, there's really good scientific evidence that they can help us with our athletic performance. So getting good sleep is important because that's where our growth hormones kick in and we get tissue repair and all that supercompensation above the horizontal line after exercise takes place in our sleep. So super important. That's as important as your training. Meditation, yoga, and self-hypnosis, doing things like mindfulness meditations, can help with stress hormones, reduce brain function, improve your brain function in terms of stress and ability to deal with stress, reduce your blood pressure. Doing yoga helps to improve the quality of your next sleep, and it changes the nervous system input to your immune system and your heart rate. So really important to get this relaxation stuff because it helps to improve your supercompensation, your adaptation afterwards, and your body's general well-being. Cold and contrast. So using ice baths, using whole body cryotherapy, expensive super chilled air, some compartments that you can go and spend hundreds of dollars on, or doing hot-cold contrast is another really effective way of recovering. So using ice baths, the most practical level is putting a bag of ice into a cold bath and sitting in there for a minute on, getting out for a minute on, getting out for a minute is useful. Or even just doing hot-cold showers. So 5 minutes of 1 minute hot, 1 minute cold, even just running it onto your legs if you've done a lower body exercise session. I found this anecdotally super helpful, really good. Dietary recovery, so rehydrating, making sure you're getting adequate carbohydrate, adequate protein, and replacing electrolytes lost through your sweat. Not my area of professional expertise, but I do know that chocolate milk contains most of these factors, and so a real simple recovery technique is using a chocolate milk protein shake, something like that, within an hour after exercise, and try and just have a normal meal as soon as you can. How can we tell if we're recovering? So things we can look at to see whether we're recovering well enough: sleep and fatigue. Are we getting adequate sleep? Do we feel tired all the time? Muscle soreness. Mood is a really, really important one. Very sensitive to changes in your training status and recovery status. So use your spouse test. If your spouse thinks you're really in a bad mood and you're cranky all the time, if you meet more than one real bastard or complete bitch a day, then that's probably a sign that your mood's changing and you're overtrained and you've tipped yourself over the edge. Some physical symptoms to look at as well as muscle soreness: having a sore throat, getting that little tickle in the back of your throat all the time, dry lips, cracked corner of your mouth, and your skin getting dry and not looking as good as it normally does. Heart rate variability here is a more recent one. There are apps you can use to use a heart rate monitor on your phone that'll tell you the balance of the sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system on your heart. And when that goes out of whack, it's a sign that you're training too hard. Hormonal stuff down here. So looking at this is only pretty much for females. If your menstrual cycle goes really out of whack, or if your period stops altogether, that's a sign that your body is not coping with the training stress you're putting on it. And that can be really important because it doubles to quadruples the risk of developing a stress fracture. So particularly for young females, keeping an eye on your menstrual status is important. So it's all your fault really if you get injured and sick. Training error is something we've been reading about for decades in scientific literature. And so making sure that you don't spike your training too heavily, particularly after a time off because of sickness. That can lead to a month's worth of increased risk of injury, and here you can see this graph shows this person got injured a month after a big layoff and big spike in training. So trying to be careful with not changing your training amount too quickly is vital. So in summary, we want to try and plan and tailor our recovery, especially with heavy training and other stress. Adequate sleep, good nutrition, cold immersion, so cold baths or hot cold shower, and compression after training. Stretch when you feel tight. Use a roller when you feel tight. Massage when you can afford it and fit it in. More when you've got a heavier training load. Relaxation strategies for stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. being aware of your signs of under recovery and taking action. Any questions, please contact me by email